Friends, we are back with another video, and today we are going to talk 3D printing in my Creality CR10S Pro. And basically what I'm trying to figure out is, I'm a metal fabricator. Does 3D printing have any business in the garage with me doing some fabrication? Let's find out. Like I said before, we are currently talking about 3D printing, and it's basically, does it belong in the garage? Can it do anything good for us metal fabricators, us machinists? There are plenty of people out there who have put 3D printers to the test and 3D prints to the test, and they've done some really cool stuff with lean manufacturing processes, etc. But we're gonna figure out, can it do any actual work? I've heard of this before, and we're gonna give it a shot. We're talking 3D printed Dimple dies. I don't know, when I heard it, I was like, what? I've had a 3D printer for quite a few years, and the prints have never been super strong. I mean, you can definitely get them strong when you do a 100% infill on your print, but I'm gonna see if it holds up. I'm doing a print right now of a 1.5 inch Dimple die. I'm doing a 100% infill and a good quality print. It is going to take 12 hours to print this set of Dimple dies. So we're in for the long haul on this one. I basically am not gonna be able to show you anything right now, but we'll definitely come back once the print is done. But I'm definitely curious. Normally when you buy a Dimple die kit, if you guys are not familiar, you're buying a set of steel or aluminum Dimple dies, because they need to hold up to punching a 45-degree basically dimple in a sheet metal. That's basically what they're for. I mean, they're heavily used in the motorsport industry, especially in like roll cage building or anything like that, where you have sheet metal build, but you need to add a little bit of rigidity and strength back to the sheet metal that you put or welded up on the car, fabricated up onto the car. So you put a couple Dimple dies in it. They range in size. You can get 1 inch to, I think, like, 3 or 4 inch Dimple dies. I'm sure people have made bigger or smaller, but we're gonna give it a shot. I think 1.5 inch Dimple die is a good all-around size. It will help me out in the garage with what I've got going on, doing the control arms and etc. on the Rambler. I do not have a set of metal or aluminum or steel Dimple dies. So for me, I'm basically just trying to see if I could save a little bit of money. I mean, I have a 3D printer. I have a few 3D printers, but this is one of them, and I have a couple projects where I want to see if 3D printing can be carried over from the hobby side into the professional side. And I'm pretty excited to see where this goes, and we will check back once the print is done. It's going right now. It's gonna take a minute. More like 11 hours, but we'll be back once it is done. I'll check back then. It'll be done in like right now. We're back, and it is the next day. The print did take every bit of about 11 hours and some odd minutes, but I think we might be pretty happy with the results here. I did some close-up shots. I'll show them here in just a second, but the Dimple die is complete, and it came out really nice, if I do say so myself. This is a solid infill, 100% infill, printed on the Creality CR10S Pro, and it's actually printed on the medium quality setting. I believe it was I can't remember the layer height, but I could look it up later. This is an 1.5 inch Dimple die, and yeah, it's actually, see if I can get some maybe some close-ups of the quality. The only questionable parts here are on the 45-degree angle part of the Dimple die. There's some raised parts. I think I'm gonna hit that real quick with some sandpaper. But for the most part, the finish is really nice on this 3D print. And that printer really impressed me and did a really good job. I was also printing some other stuff on the Anycubic Castle. It's like a Delta printer. I'm not really sure how they label it. There's like the Delta and then the Castle, I don't know, but it's Anycubic Castle. I was printing something at the same time as I was printing this, which I'm gonna do a separate video on at some other point. Here's the other side of the die. If you guys aren't sure on how these work or you've never seen them before, basically what you do is you will cut a hole in some sheet metal this size here, and then this slides through the sheet metal, and then the sheet metal gets clamped between these two dies. And then when you press the dies together, it will flare out that sheet metal and give you a nice dimple, which will add structure and rigidity back into your part. So yeah, that's how that works. So super happy with the way that this came out. Now let's go into the garage, cut a piece of steel. I have some really thin galvanized stuff that I think I'm gonna play with because I don't really have any other uses for it. So I think we're gonna play with that, and then if it does well on that, we'll try it out on something else. I think the cool thing about this is it does have a through hole. Normally with these Dimple dies, you are going to see a setup that's more used for a hydraulic press, and that won't have that through hole. Sometimes you'll get some kits that have the through hole, but I think a good thing with the through hole is not only can you use it in, like, let's say a vise or something like that by pressing it, because there's still a lot of surface area on the top and on the bottom, but you could also use a bolt and nut on the other side and then just hammer it down and see if that'll give you the same results that you want. So I think that's what we're gonna do. If not, we're probably just gonna close it in my bench vise, and we'll see if it leaves a good finish or creates a good flare or whatever, however you want to call it. Let's try it out. All right, we're in the garage. I prepped this sheet metal off camera just because I wanted to do it really quickly. Again, I really like this idea for this video, but it doesn't need to be 30 minutes long, so we're gonna try and cut it down a little bit. So I prepped the metal off camera. I've got two pieces here. I've got some really thin, I believe this is 28 gauge. It's just galvanized sheet steel I had laying in the garage. I literally can't use it for anything, so it's a good test. As you can see, I've already popped the holes in it, and I've got the die set up and ready to go. And then this one here, I believe, is 22 gauge steel, and this is going to be a little bit more of a test. I mean, I wish I had some 18 gauge, but I don't have any here. But I feel like if it does well with these, what's a little bit thicker, right? So I have my bandsaw set up all sketchy in my vise right here on the table. I'm going to take this out, and I think we're going to try and do this with the vise. Or I might go in my bolt bin and see if I can find something. But let me figure that out. We'll get back to you. Okay, so I have decided that I'm gonna have to use hardware. So I sourced stuff that doesn't work together out of my random bolt bin. That I'm sure everyone has a random bolt bin sitting in their garage, but I've got, like, you know, a metric nut and a standard bolt, and I'm just chewing the threads away, but you know, they kind of fit, so I'm just running with it because it was the easiest thing to grab at the moment, and I don't have a lot of matching stuff. A lot of the stuff I have is like car stuff, so it's not long enough, but I was going to run it in the vise. The problem with the vise is the jaws aren't deep enough to basically get a good clamp on the center of the Dimple die. So instead, I'm going to run this little rig setup I got going on here. Forgive me for using random things I have in my garage, but I'm honestly just trying to see if these things are even strong enough to do the dimple itself. So let me set up the camera so you guys can see this, and then I might speed through it a little bit. I'm just gonna hammer down on my Milwaukee Sidewinder deal here and see what happens. Maybe it'll just explode, but that's why we've got safety glasses. So let's see what happens. Let's make it happen, Captain. Not exactly sure how to get you the best view here, but like I said, I'm just gonna try and send it, see what happens. Let's get a good grip here. Huh. Kind of ran out of oomph on the old thing here, but it seems like, oh Jesus. Seems like it has done something. It is pretty well clamped. It's not clamping evenly, if you can see, but I honestly just think that's because of the way that I'm doing it. I feel like if I had a press and I was able to push down on it evenly with something base under here, it would probably work a lot better. But I don't have a press, and you know, some people don't have presses, so we're just gonna see what happens here. Maybe I will get rid of this and we'll use the impact. Look at that. That's not bad, man. It's really not bad. Now this happened trying to cut the material with my hole saw earlier. It just bound up on me. I didn't have it clamped down quite good enough, but that's actually really not bad, man. And I'm actually pretty thoroughly impressed with how easy it is. I mean, granted, I'm not I don't have the best setup here, but and there's, I mean, this is 28 gauge, and there's a lot of rigidity added back into this. So I'm actually really impressed with how that worked out. So now that we know that it worked on some thinner gauge stuff, let's up the ante a bit and go to 22 gauge. All right, so we're tight, and let's just hammer down. So far, so good. Pretty well sealed down all the way around. Get off now. I mean, man, I'm like really impressed with that. Dang. This plastic's pretty tough, man. I mean, it hasn't marked up anything. Man, I'm really impressed with that. That's freaking awesome. Okay, let's be honest with ourselves here. Did this work? Yes. Yes, it did. Is it ideal? Probably not. At least the way that I was doing it, it was not ideal. The piece itself is great. I wouldn't even mind having this in my toolbox at all. In fact, I'm going to keep this piece, and I'm probably going to print out a few more of different sizes. I do not have a dimple die set. I have yet to like invest in one, so that is something that I would like to eventually have. But in the meantime, I have 3D printers, and this thing worked, and it freaking put a perfect dimple in this piece of sheet metal. Look at that. It is literally perfect. I mean, forgive the edges here. I spent zero time, and I mean 0 time, prepping this to make it like super nice. I literally just wanted to bang a hole in it and then send it. That's what I wanted to do, and that's what I did. So forgive the edges on it, but look at the dimple itself. Look at that. It really did a fantastic job making a dimple. You would think, how did I get a dimple like that with plastic? And not only plastic, but this is layers of plastic printed on top of each other at hot temperatures. That's literally all it is. There's no injection molding. This isn't like any kind of super strong plastic. This is literally PLA, which, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's made from corn, but or something like that. But anyway, it's literally made from not like a high grade of plastic or anything like that, and it's printed layer by layer. So technically all of these little lines that you see in here are different layers of plastic. And I printed it solid and then used it. And I used it in probably the most aggressive manner that you probably could. If I had a press, this would have been a much easier process, but I literally used it with an old bolt that had the wrong size nut on it with just a bunch of random washers I had sitting in that bucket of bolts in the corner of my garage. And I hammered it together with an impact and a wrench. So, I mean, if you could do it with that, I would think a nice setup with a, basically a press evenly on here, something holding this up on the bottom here, and just nicely pressing down and giving it even pressure would be a much better option compared to hammering it down with an impact and the wrong size hardware. With that being said, how did it hold up? There are 0 cracks, 0 anything. It held up perfect. There's no breakage to it. I guess the real question is longevity. How long would these last in your toolbox if you're doing dimple dies all the time, the way I was doing them in the garage, which is the complete wrong way to do it? How long would this last? I would say I would think you'd be surprised. I think you'd be surprised. I think this would last as long as you need it to, and then on top of that, the cool part about it is you didn't spend any money doing it. You can either make these files on your own on like Autodesk Fusion 360 is what I use. A lot of guys use different modeling hardware, but this one right here, I literally printed this off of Thingiverse. I got the file from Thingiverse, downloaded it to my computer, pressed print, and it printed it. It cost me nothing to do it. Granted, yes, you have the cost of the printers and all that kind of stuff, but if you already have a printer, or if you've been interested in getting a printer, you can get cheap printers. I mean, the Anycubic Castle, that version of it, I believe is like $180 printer, and it's ready to go whenever you get it. So, and it could print this just the same as the Creality. And this is on medium quality, this print. So basically what I'm saying is, you can save $300 on your set of dimple dies and spend some time just printing them out on your 3D printer, and you could have a complete set before you know it. Will you get them in 2 days like you would if you got them shipped? Probably not, but I would say in a week, if you just kept printing them, you'd have a full set of all the sizes that you want. One thing I can say is, and I'm actually interested to try this out because I have a tank for smoothing out prints, and I also have this stuff called Smooth On over here in the corner behind the camera. I'm thinking about throwing this in the tank with the alcohol and letting it basically the vapor smooth this out. I think that would dramatically help this print and its longevity, because the only problems I could see so far are the very edge pieces. I'm trying to get like a good shot of it, but the very edge, you can see there's a layer peeling off, and that happened in this center hole as well. So I think if you were to get this print to smooth out with like one of these alcohol baths or like an acetone vapor bath or the Smooth On kits, I think if you got it to smooth out with one of those methods, you'd be in a lot better place with these plastic dimple dies. So, consensus. It works. Go print you some. Go dimple die some stuff. It'll be sick. I swear it will be. But anyway, signing off on this one. I think we're gonna come back with some more 3D printed stuff. I actually have already been printing some stuff for the next 3D printing episode, so stay tuned for that. And as always, please like, subscribe. I really appreciate you guys watching. It's awesome. Catch you on the next one. Peace.